So that's like that motivation right now. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely off from where I was in this picture.
Okay.
And it just sets me up to assess and say, you know what, at the end of the day, I've got to really look in the mirror, which I was. We got to look in the mirror. And we got to assess where we're at currently when it comes to physical. Because you and I, we've been talking a lot about these spheres and what really success looks like in work, in the marketplace, and also at home and in life. And one of these spheres that we're going to talk about today is physical.
This is the Untamed Podcast, where only the few dare to go. We're building a community of adventurous high achievers who refuse to trade our dreams for comfortable mediocrity so that we can unleash our untamed potential. Could you be one of the untamed few? Now, your untamed hosts, Marc Lucas and Joel Fritz.
Joel, it's these moments, I know we've all had them, but I'll just share. I got to be just raw and real with you.
All right, bring it.
I'm looking in the mirror recently, and I definitely don't look like I thought I looked, especially during COVID when I was hitting the gym hard. And this core section is not very solid anymore. Like, there's some jiggling going on. There's some looseness going on.
Wait a minute. I'm just thinking, so you're talking about that core section, but didn't you just post something recently of you with a surfboard in the Untamed Facebook group? Oh, buddy. Hey, that was a good looking man. I think I saw some definition in those abs.
There's no jiggling in that picture.
Are you just thinking back? What was that, 4 years ago?
Yeah, it was COVID year. Yeah, it was 2020.
Can we see that picture? Q, can you put that picture up?
Cute.
Right, there you go.
Just scrolled that across the front. So that's like that motivation right now. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely off from where I was in this picture.
Okay.
And it just sets me up to assess and say, you know what, at the end of the day, I've got to really look in the mirror, which I was. We got to look in the mirror, and we got to assess where we're at currently when it comes to physical. Because you and I, we've been talking a lot about these spheres and what really success looks like in work, in the marketplace, and also at home and in life. And one of these spheres that we're going to talk about today is physical.
Yeah. So if you guys will stick with us, we want you to know that we're going to talk through this, how important it is to pay attention to the physical sphere, because it's so fundamental in all these different areas. Honestly, it's kind of like a support system for other areas in our lives. And if we want to succeed, it's surprising how much the physical area can hold us back if we're not paying attention. So if you'll stick with us, we have a challenge at the end that you truly are not going to want to miss out on.
Which we just did before the podcast started.
That's right. We got it started.
We'll let you in later.
Come on.
Okay, we'll tell them now. No, it's all right.
Spoiler alert
right there. Cat's out of the bag. Yeah. We did some push-ups. I did like 300. Element. I think you did like maybe 80.
No, 301.
That's about a big fat lie. But
come on, yeah.
But we did some push-ups before we got things rolling.
Yeah, because we're doing that. We want
push-up challenge
to be able to be people that have our physical sphere supporting the callings that are on our lives. You know, whether it be as husbands, fathers, friends, leaders within the marketplace, whatever it is, we have to have the physical support these other areas. And so we want to make sure guys understand how to do that. And we're going to make it really easy. Yeah,
I think it's amazing. And we didn't talk about this before we start recording, which we do obviously pray and discuss before we walk into this moment. But this just came to my mind, and I'm just going to share it because it might be a good thought.
Yeah.
It actually bothers me to pretty large degrees when I see, and you and I both come from the place of the church and working full-time in the church, but it bothers me when I see successful pastors, and success being in metrics, success being in growth, however we're measuring success, and they're just obese.
Yeah.
Like they just are really overweight. And yet I think to myself, to some degree, it almost lessens their leadership. It almost lessens really what I see in the potential they have to lead the people that God's really given them. And that I think is true and attributes to any place in the marketplace. I think when we stand up and we want to be leaders, when we stand up and want to be successful, if we're so often missing the sphere of physical, that at the end of the day, it almost lessens the ability we have to lead others well. It almost lessens the ability that we have to be a great leader.
Yeah. And I mean,
right?
Honestly, there's a heartfelt thing when I hear you talk. When you're mentioning that, kind of creating a visual image for me, a pastor in a pulpit, and you're feeling for that individual. And I think that's a lot of what is motivating today is this desire. We want to see men be successful in every area of their life.
Right.
And when you look at that, you think, man, that is holding that individual back. And so honestly, like my heart, and I know your heart as well, is we want to set people free.
Yeah.
And free to be their whole self. And, I can think of lots of examples where people struggle with that. And so I don't want to diminish in any way, shape, or form. We're not here to shame or diminish the difficult situation any individual finds self in. However, we want to offer a way out. Really the opportunity to start thinking about it, do something about it, engage. Now, and we have been using these 3 words: assess, accept, and aim.
And maybe even act.
And a fourth, act, exactly. Yep. And you act upon what you're aiming at. But when we think about it, the first step is assessing. And I think we don't like to assess. And so whether it be in your career, which we tend to do often because we want to succeed, we want to feel the wins, the rewards of success. But in order to have that, we have to assess where we're at in that success sphere, what direction we're going, and assess, and then accept the present place that we're at, and then choose where we're going to go. And that's what we're hoping during this time, is that people would take a little bit of time to assess. They take some moments where they are sober with themselves and they accept, and then they move from there and they say, but this is where I want to be. And that place that we think you can be is a place of freedom, a place where your physical is supporting the calling that's on your life, the things that mean the most to you. Yeah,
and I think that's exactly right. I couldn't agree more. It's like when I looked in the mirror, back to the original story, for the most part, I'm not being hindered in the ability I have to move with my kids, the ability that I have to try new things like wake surfing with my kids, or the ability I have to jump into a new physical challenge when it's presented as an opportunity to be able to connect with my family or connect with friends or try new things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I am assessing and saying, you know what? There is a drift. There is a bit of a misalignment in me not having clear goals right now in what physical fitness, nutrition, flexibility, mobility, all with the viewpoint of saying longevity, where I'm really at in those things. And I just know that in my core right now, my core strength is off. And I know that if I continue to allow this to drift and slip, it's not going to be long before I'm really off. So I think, and again, back to the original story, I have such compassion on guys that are in the pulpit like that. And again, I want to have, and I do have, we have sensitivity to that. But at the end of the day, we also have to look in the mirror and to be able to say we have self-control to look in the mirror and say, okay, what are the intentional steps, which we're going to give them throughout this podcast and a challenge at the end, but with self-control. And then what are the steps that you can set as goals and habits to be able to start getting a realignment and to really aim at what you need to aim at when it comes to longevity.
Goals.
Yeah.
I don't know, like sometimes we love goals, other times we hate goals. I've even heard people say, like, if I ask a person what their goals are and they have no answer, then I have no business with that person. Like, I think that's a little bit of an extreme
harsh
perspective. That's harsh. But the truth is that you said it, I feel like it illustrated it so well. I looked in the mirror and I saw my gut and I realized I have no goals. Right? Isn't that's kind of
true.
It's what we're honestly going to spend the time talking about today, is that if you just take a moment and you say, well, should I have a goal in that area? Then the answer is probably yes, I should have a goal. And if I have a goal and I've actually told that goal to somebody, and there's this whole psychological thing that actually has research done on it. And the chances of you succeeding at a goal are directly related to whether or not you have written that goal out, you've showed it to anybody else. So they're actually, in my opinion, they're steps of accountability, right? You said, 100%. Have I ever spoken this desire into reality? That's the first step toward a goal. You're sitting looking in the mirror and we all have our thoughts, but what do we do with that at that moment? Because that's a moment of assessment. But in that moment of assessment, what was your acceptance? Did you just say, this is just how I am, and there's nothing I can do about it? Well, we all know there's something we can do about it.
Of course.
But at that point, if you accept where you're at, and then you say, there's something I can do about it, and you aim at something different, that's where a goal begins to form.
Yep.
And if you have a goal and you begin to share that goal with people, then it's honestly not that difficult because you find the motivations that are going to carry you forward on that path.
That's exactly right. And that brought me to a place, and I even just took that next step of sharing it with you even just this morning, of assessing and saying, okay, what would a simple little mini habit stacked probably within a habit that I already have in my day that goes inside of my calendar to be able to assess where I'm at right now? And my reminder on my calendar every single day it's set, and it comes on towards the back part of the day because I know I've got a little margin there, is eliminate 1 carb or 1 sugar today. So be intentional with my diet. And then also do at least 10 minutes of some type of core workouts. And now that I've shared that with you, there's some accountability. And now that I've created a specific measurable task within my calendar, now there's going to be some great success for me to achieve.
I'm texting you and I'm like, yo, Mark, how's the gut?
I'm eating a donut,
Mark,
thinking about you.
Take a picture of where you're at right now. What food are you eating?
Are you doing crunches? Where are you exactly right now in this moment?
Yeah.
Eating no white sugar.
That's it. Yeah. It's good stuff. Well, when you're thinking about that, or when you mention that, it makes me think of what I've done recently. And it was just a simple little reminder. So I'm fairly active on a bicycle. And when I came into the year, I knew that I wanted to be able to take advantage of the warm months on my bicycle. Yeah. And that's something, if in cycling, if you haven't put in the work before, then you don't get to reap the rewards later, because it's intense fitness wise. You have to have a level of fitness that'll carry you into endurance. I mean, I want to be able to ride my bike for 2 to 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. And in order to get there, I can't just jump on the bike and tough it out. Yeah. So I need to prepare. So in February, I did a few things, make sure I got in a certain amount of rides, even in the cold weather. So then in March, I could start to enjoy the warm weather, et cetera. And as it's progressed, then I feel good. I go, oh, well, I have a level of fitness. But then I go, well, I'd like to do something with that fitness. And I think this is super key. And I hope all of you guys will listen to this, that if you will then take that next step, which I think most of us have done at some point, and you actually go and sign up for some sort of a run or an event, then it kind of takes you to the next level naturally. So there's this simple little mountain bike racing series in Huntsville where I live. And I did it a few years ago, but I haven't done it over the last couple of years because I'm busy and it requires 4 different races. I looked at the calendar and I'm free all of those dates this year. And I said, I'm signing up.
Beautiful.
Boom. And as soon as I signed up, my mental perspective shifted. It's almost like a switch went on. And what happened then is I'm like, oh, I want to ride my bike. It was no longer thinking I'm riding my bike just for enjoyment, or I'm riding my bike just for fitness, or I'm riding my bike so that I can do something later on because I'll have an opportunity to do a cool ride with somebody somewhere. It was all of a sudden like, no, I need to prepare so that I can be my best for this race, which caused me to then say, well, how many rides do I want to get in a week? And it's just start to think through the process. Then I'm motivated and I go, well, this Friday will be the first race. And I go, well, I want to be the best that I can. So I squeezed in a ride on Sunday evening. I made sure I got a decent ride on Saturday. I was even thinking about, maybe I need to bring my mountain bike out to Atlanta, for the recordings. Yeah. But then I'm like, oh no, I can time the ride here. And then as soon as I get back, I can do this. See how it just makes me think different? Yeah. It's not that I really changed a whole lot of what I'm already doing or made my life more difficult. It just caused me to start thinking, what do I need to do in order to achieve this thing that I'm excited about?
It's huge. And I think there's so many benefits, and you just shared a few when we do that. And it's really important that guys obviously lean in and say, okay, what is that challenge? What can I sign up for? What's the thing that I can do that really does give you that mind shift, that gives you that focus, it gives you that intensity and clarity to do that. And then even some of the kind of smaller benefits as well that I think come from that, just a few that came to mind is one, just think through our mental state. When we are in a better place, a peak place of performing and being competitive, and we're really taking care of the bodies that really God's given us, we come home and we have great mental clarity. We come home and we have much better endurance. We come home and you're just a better person, Joel. When you come home at night, like you're more enjoyable. Like I'm not with you obviously every night when you come home, but if I were to call up your wife right now and your girls, and same for me, we're just more enjoyable. Yeah. When we have that output of the physical,
you got it,
and we're pushing ourselves. Yeah. And the other funny thing, because I love them so much, and this really does apply, especially those that are married right now, is we're bringing sexy back. Justin Timberlake, because at the end of the day, our wives do want us to be in good physical shape. And I remember telling my wife, like, I think I had just turned 40, and now you and I are the tail end of that beautiful decade. But I remember telling her when I turned 40, and she threw this awesome party for me, and I was like, you know what, babe? I'm going to make you a promise. And she probably had no idea where I was going with this promise. I'm like, I'm going to make you a promise. And here's the promise. You know, some of those guys that are in our circle of friends, and they're older. They're 10 to 15 to 20 years older than I am. You know how they're starting to get kind of a beer gut? I'm going to promise you that I'm going to work my very best for you, for me as well, but for you to not be, that you won't be married to a husband that has a giant beer gut. And it's silly, it's whatever. It was a fun moment between my wife and I, and she never asked for this. It's not like she jumped up and down like we joked a couple of podcasts ago.
But she's grateful, right? She's great.
And she's like cheering, yay, Mark, yay, Mark. Like we always want our wives to come home and be the cheerleader. That's not even what she did. But at the end of the day, the impetus of this was me. Like I want to be, as I'm asking and suggesting and even praying that you would take care of yourself, obviously, because there's importance for her to take care of herself. But if we don't model that, and we don't model that for our wives and for our kids, how can we really have any expectation that that's what they're going to want as well?
Yeah. And, you know, honestly, it's a maturing thought process, in my opinion. So, and when I say that, what I'm trying to articulate is the fact that in my mid-30s, I started thinking, I'm going to turn 40 not too long from now, and I don't have a good physical routine. And I remember, actually, there's a cool story. I'll just tell it real quick. But during that time period, I started realizing, what am I going to do? And so I remember I got some fitness videos. I wanted to get into shape before I showed up at the gym, probably what everybody feels, right? So I'd ride my bike a little bit, but during that season, we had our third kid. I was just an exhausting season. I was in my master's degree, and then I came out of that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have truly sacrificed my body, and now I've got to do something. And so I said, I've got to get a regimen. I have to have a physical routine that promotes health into my 40s. That's what I was thinking in my mid-30s after I finished all of those things. And so I started wondering what that was. I tried a few things here or there, and my friend John started a CrossFit gym and invited people to it. And that truly was the answer. And I did that, I think, faithfully for about a year or so, took a year hiatus, and then I did it for 3 or 4 years before we transitioned out of Phoenix and went to Italy. And I actually started spending more time on the bicycle and started swimming in the sea, and like kind of almost like I was wanting to do a triathlon during that period because I was doing so much activity. But it was that thought process of going into the 40s, just like you said. And here's the cool result of all that is that I remember when I was in my 20s and I was actually surfing 2 or 3 times a week in California while I was in college, but I was carrying a beer gut in college.
More than you do today, you said.
Yeah, absolutely
a lot
more.
Yeah.
And so when I started riding consistently, that just, whatever was there just kind of vaporized. And that's the whole thing, is that you get into a routine that is supporting the lifestyle that you want, but you actually do have to think it through. I had to think it through in my mid-30s. Now, I also have to have, I want to be honest and transparent, like you were honest and transparent. And the thing that I am facing is, the truth is, I feel like my core and my upper body has atrophied, so as in cycling, you get a decent benefit, when you're lighter weight and your legs are doing all the work. That works. So my cardiovascular fitness is high. My legs are working great, but I have my challenge is that I need to step in and I need to gain the muscle, because muscle is what is going to carry you into those later stages of life, and the impact that's going to sustain and create heavier bone density, greater bone density, and all of that stuff. So that's the area that I want to step into more and complement my riding with that, so that I can be real well-rounded. So that's where I'm going to embrace that.
I love it. Well, and I think at the end of the day, as we do assess and we begin to assess where we're at physically, that's what you just walked us through. You assessed your strengths. Obviously, your cardio, your core, your legs right now are strong, but there's some atrophy in some areas in the upper body. So you're going to jump into that. And the challenge, actually, that we're going to give in just a few moments is going to help you and help us in the Untamed Few be able to do that together. The one thing that I wanted to say that's been really helpful for me as well, that I believe will be helpful for some guys listening, it is that at the end of the day, we sometimes got to mix it up a little bit when it comes to anything in life. But when it comes to the physical routines that we've had, maybe for decades, multiple decades. And if you've been just a gym rat, or you've been just a CrossFit guy, or you've been just a pickleball player mixed in with a runner, whatever it is, great. If that's working for you and that continues to motivate you and push you, then great. But you might need to assess that there might be a moment where you need to tweak it. There might be a moment where you need to kind of mix it up a little bit. So just quickly, there was a moment where I just got tired of doing the same thing. So I was doing a lot of F45, a lot of Orange Theory, a lot of pickleball. I was swimming. I mean, I was in good physical shape, but I was just getting bored of everything. And even in the challenges in a group fitness class, the challenges that I put on myself, I needed to just kind of mix it up a little bit. And all that being said, I just had a buddy say, okay, why don't you join me in a sparring class and let's get into boxing. And when I went, he and I, twice a week, and we started to spar, first off, I was just a sweaty pig. I mean, I'm not even, like some people are sweaty Eddie when they work out. I don't sweat a lot when I work out. I was dripping with sweat. Like I was gross in the amount of perspiration that I had. But I loved the new challenge. Yeah. And I love even the mental component of it, because obviously in sparring, you got to think through the combinations of 1-3, 1-2, 1-4, like all the different combinations. And it was so good for me. It was like almost the paddles came out, clear, shot. And it just like, it energized me in a way that I needed. So I'm just saying that because I think even though the challenge is great and we're going to do this challenge together, I also just want you to assess that you might need to kind of maybe mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, and whether you knew you were talking about it or not, I heard relationship in there.
Yeah.
And that's a critical component. Part of that, I think the paddles coming out and shocking you awake. I mean, nothing builds relationship like punching your buddy in the face, right?
I want to punch you in the face sometimes, just so you know.
You know what? Right now, we're just going to push these microphones out of the way, and Mark and I are going to go at it.
Drop in the comments who you think would win, Joel or Mark, in a boxing match. They all said Mark, so don't worry.
Yep,
we're good. We're good.
Right, I understand.
You have better abs, though, but I think I'd beat you in a fight.
I'll break your ankle. I'll get into that jiu-jitsu stuff.
Okay.
All right. So, but no, I really want people to hear about relationship. We actually talk with our daughters about not just being good at sports or trying a sport. Yeah. We talk about life sports. Now, I've created my own definition for life sports, but what's a life sport? A life sport is something that you can do that you will be physically capable of doing, most people, for the rest of your life. And with that, it's a relational type of a thing. So cycling is highly relational. Pickleball is the reason pickleball is growing so fast. And if you guys don't know, this guy is an amazing pickleball player. And do not play with them. Seriously, do not sign up to play with them unless you think you are the absolute stuff, all right? So Mark, pickleball, golf is another one of those things. Now golf, you can argue, where's exactly how much fitness is it providing for you, but it is outside, you are moving. It's a great thing to do. But those sorts of things provide a social context. And that's what we need as human beings. I mean, when I came into Huntsville, I didn't know anybody. When I went to Italy as a missionary, how am I going to get to know people? I joined an Italian club of riders, and I would ride with 30 guys
so sweet.
that did not speak English. And they're talking about, they're saying this word and that word, and I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. When you're in a pack of riders and they're all right next to each other, and it's all foreign language around you.
It's just a bunch of gibberish. So
so it was, it's quite an experience. But out of that, I got to know people. And that is such a critical component of this, is you're not just, your physical well-being doesn't just have to support the physical alone. It can be a springboard, a support system for your relationships as well. And that is a big win, because you're building in accountability and you're building in the other areas that will sustain it for a longer period of time.
It's so key. It really is. I mean, I'll just add quickly to that. As you guys know, on my journey coming here to Atlanta, and so many times just not feeling like I had any community, and I because I didn't, and I knew quickly that one of the easiest ways to insert community was to be able to jump into new pickleball communities and to sign up for 2 teams that I'm on right now. But to be able to say, okay, I've got to get out of my introverted shell, whatever it is. I've got to kind of push away from whatever the excuses are and just say, I'm going to join this team.
Right.
I'm going to ride with a bunch of Italian riders and not even know the language. But through that, to see the community that's fostered.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really is.
It is. Yeah. I 100%. So that's really good.
Yeah.
There's something I really want to mention as well. Like, I think we're talking about health, but health requires a certain amount of motivation. And like you said, you just mentioned I had to break out of my introverted, shy. I forget the exact word that you just used, but the whole point is that we have to take that first step and nobody's going to take it for us.
Right.
So, Marc, I'm kind of asking, what is our listeners' motivation? Where are they going to find that motivation at? Because you've got to have some level of motivation to step out. So it's either them looking in the mirror or somebody listening to us right now, they have actually had this experience where their physical situation is holding them back from something that they want. And a while back, my wife and I were discussing, and we actually started a little health coaching thing for just a period of time. And if anybody wants to go and watch my TikToks, I have a significant following on. It's called The Calling Coach now, but it used to be geared toward health and nutrition stuff. And so they want to go watch some of those. I have tons of videos about that, but we came up with the name Well and Able. And the reason that we came up with the name Well and Able is because of this motivator. The question being able to blank.
Yep.
What is a thing that you want to be able to do? And I think if we could figure that out and we can ask that question, what do I want to be able to do? For some people, and this actually, it gives me chills or makes me a little bit sad to think about, but it's very true. And I hope that our listener can do something about it. That is able to see my child get married, able to take that vacation that I worked my whole career to take when I'm retired, but now my health won't support it. Able to jump on the trampoline with my kids.
Or grandkids.
Yeah. Able to lift my grandkids above my head.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, that stuff starts to choke me up a little bit, like, because I want to see people win. And oftentimes we neglect something so long that our options get fewer and fewer and fewer. But what is that motivator? And I think if somebody asks themselves, able to what? And they recognize it and they're able to aim toward that, then they can actually make a significant difference, bring their health into alignment. And we're going to talk about a few things, ways that they can do that, because we've got some challenges for them, huh?
It's so good. And I think it does really help all of us frame that pain point and frame the point of reference. What do I want to be able to do in my 50s, in my 60s, in my 70s, and even putting a frame of reference on the time. Mm-hmm. Because again, in my 50s, obviously, I definitely don't want to be holding up my grandkids because I don't want my kids to have kids in my 50s. But in my 60s, for sure. But I think having a reference, I'm able to blank. That's really, really, really important for us to be able to do that, because that pain point has to be enough motivation for us to be able to take the stand today and say, okay, I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
I'm going to assess where I'm at. I'm going to really put together some clear steps to achieve, because I know that I'm going to aim at what I want to be able to do. And I want a clear process of acting those things out. Yeah. So I think that's the process. And I mean, I'll be so audacious to say that even with my grandkids, not only my kids, but even with my grandkids, I still want to be able to compete physically with them.
Yeah.
I do. And I just think if you have that type of goal, whatever the goal might be, it's going to motivate you. It's going to motivate me. It's going to motivate us to be able to put in the work, to be able to look in the mirror. I mean, again, I worked in a gym. It's hard to tell, but I worked at a gym for about 1.5 years. And everybody comes into the gym, and for the most part, everybody, the first thing they do, especially in the new year, but the first thing they do is say, I want to lose X amount of weight. And we used to have them write it on this big glass wall, how much weight. My name is Jim, and I want to lose 10 pounds. My name is Steve, and I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, great. We can put the perfect class, the perfect program together for you. But until you believe and assess and believe this true statement, it's not going to happen. Here's a statement. Abs are made in the kitchen. So until you begin to look into the kitchen and what you're eating, you're never really going to be able to do some of the goals that you have. So again, and you've already mentioned, and we've talked about diet a little bit, but we just can't stress the importance of not only the physical challenge, which we'll give everybody to do together just here in a moment, but we have to be able to look at what are you eating? Are you fueling yourself? Intermittent fasting? And we even talked about before we start recording, when we realize we're so productive in the morning and we wake up and yes, we might have some water and some liquids in the way of water, maybe tea, maybe a cup of coffee.
Coffee, no sugar.
No sugar. But we just are productive.
Right.
And our mind is calibrated and we're efficient. And then we look at our watch and we're like, it's lunchtime.
Right.
And I've just burned through all of that. I've been so efficient. And now I get to have a really large, healthy, substantial meal. And it just sets up for a great day.
Yeah. And, I'm going to pick up right there and I'm going to give a little health challenge. Okay. Right. And then we're going to go on to a physical challenge and we're going to hold you guys accountable if you'll let us.
I'll do the physical, you do the health.
Okay. So I'm going to do and this is an easy health challenge you can do. We were talking and thinking, what step could our guys take? So here's what you can do. You can space out your meals first and foremost. Now, listen, most bad eating or a large percentage of the bad eating that you are going to do in a day is not going to happen at your meals so much as between your meals. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. The reason is because the way that you've trained your body is that you're likely eating carbs if you're on the American diet. And so sugar is spiking and dropping. And the cycle right in there is in between about 90 minutes and 2 hours between when you eat or you have some carbohydrates and when your body's going to crave carbohydrates again. So if you think about it, if lunch is at noon, let's say breakfast is at 7, lunch is at noon, and I'm going to give 5 hours just to make it easy, noon, and then dinner is at 5 o'clock. Those are 5-hour spaces. So now in the middle of those, where are you going to get hungry? You're going to get hungry and probably have 2 snacks in between each of those. And it's almost going to correspond with 90 minutes. And if you don't know this is exactly how your body works. And that's why I want you to understand it, because the thing that I'm challenging you to do is very simple. Skip the snacks between the meals. And now you may be like, oh my gosh, no, I can't do it.
This guy's crazy right now.
Or here's another killer. This is an absolute killer with people. I need a bowl of cereal before I go to bed. There's this guy, and we had conversations. He's like, no, I can't not eat that bowl of cereal. I'm like, yes, you can. In fact, you can do that, and you don't have to necessarily eat breakfast in the morning. He's like, you're crazy. And then I said, well, let's try it for 21 days. And he did it for 21 days, and he goes, I don't have to have a bowl of cereal anymore before I go to bed.
You're right.
You're right. It's incredible. The point is what's happening is you're infusing your body with glucose, spiking the sugar is dropping. That's creating the cravings. So all I'm challenging you to do is skip the snacks between. Now, if you want to go next level, well, try skipping breakfast. And that's where you get into this brain fog thing and clearing out the brain fog. You mentioned it earlier. I won't spend much time on it. But some people even call it like a Silicon Valley hack for your brain, is that if you want to be productive, then stop eating, because what happens in your body, the physiological response, is that everything starts to sharpen in your brain. Some people love to explain it like the fight or flight, the hunter mentality. You start to get hungry, your body doesn't shut down and be like, oh, I'm conserving energy. Right. Your body goes into hyper-productive mode and it's like, find me food, and it starts to sharpen. And we seriously, it went Q. I picked up Q and he had been working the whole morning. We drove out to Atlanta and he goes, oh, I forgot to eat. Have you ever been in a productivity mode where you are like, I forgot to eat? That happens, especially for me, when I get into a routine in the morning where I'm not eating and I skip breakfast. It's not that it makes me hungrier. I actually am more productive and my brain is stimulated, and then I can forget lunch. And then I'm like, whoa, I got to stop and eat, right? Now, that's the easiest thing. So I'm going to break that down clearly. Okay, all right, sorry. I'm going to break it down clearly, and that is skip the snacks between the meals. So if you're going to do 3 meals in the day, then skip the snacks between breakfast and lunch and skip the snacks between lunch and dinner. So just eat the 3 meals. That's one thing you can do. Second thing that you can do, you can go ahead and lower the amount of carbs. You don't have to eliminate the carbs. Lower the amount of carbs and eat fiber, which are carbs, but you can do the heavy fiber carbs on the front end, fat or protein on the front end of your meal. Don't eat the carbs, the bad carbs up front that are just going to convert right to glucose and sugar, all right? So if you'll do those things, you'll actually see a surprising response in your body. That will help, and that'll get you toward those abs.
I love it. So the last challenge, and I'm excited for the Untamed few and for you and I to jump into this. There's kind of 3 bar of entry points that we're just going to suggest. There might be more than that. So this fitness challenge is a push-up challenge. And we're saying, okay, it could be a plank or a push-up. So that first level or one of the options might be is if right now, for whatever reason, 100 push-ups is hard, and it is hard. 100 push-ups can be very challenging. Then choose the option of saying, I'm going to do 5 minutes combined total of planking in the day. So you're going to do 5 minutes of planking, and you're just going to say, okay, I did a minute and a half here, and then a couple hours later, I did another minute. At the end of the day, at least do 5 minutes, okay? The second option for those that are with us in the Untamed few, and we're going to be able to kind of give each other the muscle and the thumb up and just say, we did it. So we're going to acknowledge this all together.
The muscle emoji.
A muscle emoji, which will probably be the one that I go to a lot. The second option is 100 push-ups, okay? So throughout the day, the collective total is 100, okay? The third option is to be able to say 250 to 500 a day, okay? Just crushing it. 250 to 500. Every single day, you and I and all of us will go to LinkedIn. There's a Live Untamed is our LinkedIn page. So it's called Live Untamed. If you have not been to our LinkedIn page, go there. On the LinkedIn page, Joel and I will do this on both pages. You can also do it on both pages. Just give the muscle emoji and say, did it, planks, 5 minutes.
We'll prompt each day.
Each day.
We'll have a new comment each day.
Each day will be a prompt with the day.
You got it.
And then you and I will prompt that.
I think it could be right. We'll post, and then they respond, they comment with their muscle.
Correct. So it could be, it could be the muscle, and it could be did the plank with the muscle. It could be the push-up. It could be how many you did. That's fine, okay? So LinkedIn, Live Untamed, and then the Facebook group is the Untamed few in our Facebook group. Both places are great places for us to engage with each other. We talked a lot on this podcast, the importance of doing this together. We were never meant to do life alone. There is a tribe of the Untamed few, and we get to hang out and do this together. And it's going to be rad.
That's awesome. So, Mark, which one are you going to do?
I'm going to go
on the spot. What's up?
250 to 500.
You're going to do it? That means I have to do 250 to 500 then, too.
I know. Q's saying 500 to 1,000.
Oh, man.
250 to 500, it's going to be my number.
Beast.
Yeah. I'm excited to do it together.
I'm looking forward to doing this with you guys as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's been a great podcast.
Hey,
love it.
Don't miss out on this. This is going to be happening. We're going to launch this
July
right away.
1st.
July 1st.
Yep.
And this is something you can do on vacation. That's one of the reasons we're structuring it like this. So all you got to do is do your push-ups throughout the day, and then you're going to comment, and that's the way we can interact with each other, and we can see who's doing it and who's not when they've made the commitment. All right.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Live Untamed.
If this episode sparked something in you, please subscribe and even share it with someone who's ready to take their life to the next level. We're always on the hunt for men who are looking to become untamed and release their untamed potential. Also, if you found value in this conversation, then please rate the podcast and leave a comment. It makes a huge impact in building our community. We'll see you next time when the adventure continues, or maybe when yours begins.